Yo, what's up, guys? Hey, yo, what's up? Yo, what's up, YGG? And we are back for another AMA with the community. And tonight we have a very special guest. We have Alethea who is here with us tonight. It's a really cool project that Saratobi has been looking into. And yeah, let's get started. By the way, my name is John Sedano, and yeah, Alexei, how's it going, man?
Really well, John. Really well, I have to say. Glad to have Alethea on the AMA today.
Good to be here, guys.
Looking forward to showing it to the community.
Got it. I feel like my name has become the company's name that I work with, right? So so I'm Arif, and Alethea is the company I founded, and really excited to be here with the community.
Awesome. So yeah, I suppose we've been looking at this project quite deeply over the last couple of weeks, and had the pleasure of having Arif give me a demonstration of the project. But for all of those in the audience who don't know yet, we'd love to get an elevator pitch for the project there, Arif.
For sure. So if you think about what NFTs are today, they're really static images or GIFs or JPEG files, right? Like that's the common meme that's known in the NFT community. What we are doing is we're giving your NFTs superpowers. We're making them interactive, making them intelligent. They can interact with you in real time, and we can essentially bring them to life and gift them a personality. And so you can imagine your Axis being able to talk to you and have a personality outside of the game. You can imagine your stoner cats having personalities and characteristics that you can interact with. You can imagine these characters talking with each other as well. And so it's really the upgrading and the emergence of the metaverse that we are pushing forward. So the standard we are pioneering is called the intelligent NFT. When an NFT becomes intelligent and interactive, it shifts it from just a JPEG or a GIF and video to an actual fully interactive experience, just like we are having in this conversation today, where you and I are interacting and we're all having a discussion.
Right, awesome, man. Like I've been browsing through. I mean, the website's insane, and also like the YouTube content that you guys have been putting out, hilarious, dude. Like I think you guys are trying to. I mean, you guys are actually going for a demographic that that hasn't been tapped before, because you're bringing together like the technology of because I've seen the deep fake videos and also these avatars, so it's really crazy, and you're integrating it with blockchain. But then yeah, I mean, it's really good to know that you guys, there's actually like a project like this that's already happening. Because I mean, like a couple of years, a couple of months back, like this wouldn't even be on the top of minds of even like anyone in the blockchain industry. And like it's good that you guys are taking the lead on it. And like yeah, I can't really wait for the community to get get their feet wet and just start building with your community as well. Yeah, I mean, the project has really good potential in my opinion. And like innovation of the NFTs, like this is going to be the next frontier. And just I'm really curious, so what actually made you decide that like this is the project that like I want to build?
Yeah, no, and thank you for your kind words as well. It was a somewhat foolish decision to start this company just before the pandemic, right? But then somehow it worked out okay for us. I think the primary thing was in my previous role, I was Chief Marketing Officer of SingularityNet, which is an AI robotics platform. And there was a robot called Sophia. I don't know how many people are familiar with her, but she's sort of like this robot celebrity that we made famous and popularized. And so I used to have to go through as like the chief marketing officer, you have to go through, you have to bring the robot to conferences and events to show her off, right?
Okay.
And then that's part of the process. But I used to have this problem. I mean, I am Singaporean, right? But I'm also like a brown Pakistani guy, so it's very confusing for airport security to look at me and like not wonder how am I Singaporean. So what happens is like when I'm traveling with a robot, and setting up for a conference, I get asked 10,000 questions. So I started thinking like, surely there's a better way to scale that robot out into the world, right? Like actually provide fans to have access to her, And so like around December, November 2019, I felt that there was going to be a unique opportunity as deepfakes were just coming up a little bit, that this was going to be a unique opportunity to create AI-generated content. That means a person can stay in their place, they can stay in their physical location, but they can have multiple versions of themselves, multiple avatars, multiple identities, and this is created in a cheap way, not too expensive, not prohibitively costly, where you have to rig a custom model and like spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to create a high fidelity model. You can actually create something high fidelity in a cost efficient way. So we started looking at that, and I felt that this was something very much aligned with the interest and some of the problems I had with content creation. And so when we first wrote about this in January 2020, I remember the blog post that I wrote on CoinDesk got like 6 views, because what we were saying was like, hey, you can combine NFTs with synthetic media, and these two technologies are going to merge in a way that is going to be really powerful and transformative. But nobody really cared, right? Only this year, in the past year, with friends like YGG, with others that have really brought the NFT space to life, we're now seeing that message resonate. And now the question is, what else can we do with NFTs? What utility can we provide? What sort of experiences can we bring into these assets that are loved and beloved to us all? So that's a little bit of the story.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Because yeah, the first time I saw, I'd be honest, like I didn't really know how to react. Like, oh my god, this is gonna be like the first, the first step in the movie Terminator, like really happening if they get out of control. I really didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. But like seeing all these advancements and like how you guys, actually like plan to work with it, it's pretty interesting, because like it's opened a lot of new doors, a lot of new possibilities of just basically having like these new products out there in the market. And definitely, like, yeah, YGG is definitely like interested, like actually just like exploring like possibilities in the future, like however you see fit. I mean, just like a real quick question. So how do you see the YGG participating with Alethea?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I can just showcase one or two like iNFTs that we have created, just so that the community can understand what it is that they would essentially be participating with or playing with, right? So let me just share my screen just to show you. So this was the first to set this video up. This was the first iNFT that we sold with Sotheby's, the auction house. And this was a very unique collaboration that we did with the artist Robert Ellis. And so this iNFT, let me just play the video for you. This was the first one that we had. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, let me share it 1 second. So everyone, I'd like to invite everyone to go full screen. Be sure that make sure that you are on there so that you get to see the videos. All right, let's go.
Okay. Let me just play this. You can see a blue character on screen, I imagine.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll just play the video. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So this is the trailer.
It's not a question of what I'll say. It's a question of whether you are ready to talk.
Does that make sense so far? Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Like, I mean, it's insane. It feels like I'm in the movie. If everyone at home has seen the movie Artificial Intelligence, AI, the sci-fi drama. so it's not gonna be sci-fi like anytime soon anymore. So yeah, definitely, it's really cool, man. Like really cool.
It's here and it's live, and the cool thing is that it actually has value, right? Like it's not just so this piece actually sold for almost $500,000. This was the first iNFT ever created on Sotheby's. And so, if the community wants to geek out, like, they can have a look at the condition report where we talk about what is on-chain, what is off-chain, and we actually showcase how the Alethea AI protocol works and how you can actually upgrade an NFT and give it a superpower, right? So for us, the way it works is essentially and the YGG community will get some really cool goodies shortly, but like this is the core pod, the pod, the soul, the brain of the character, however you want to characterize it. We call it the personality pod, where you can embed the AI into this orb like feature, and the NFT is linked to this NFT that we have, the pod, and is brought to life, right? So Alice, for example, is a still image. We link it to a pod and soul, and now suddenly she's a fully interactive and intelligent character. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, I mean it's dude, it's mind blowing. I really can't, I really can't like wait how to see like this getting like implemented like in the next couple months, couple of years. Like Alexei, what do you about it?
Yeah, no, I mean the implications for games is going to be really interesting. I suppose allows for like new layers of kind of relationship to be built between a person and their assets. I mean, I suppose what could be interesting is have you spoken to any game projects about kind of natively integrating with them in a way that kind of allows for kind of iNFTs to exist kind of within a game environment?
Yes, absolutely, and it's a natural fit for some of this stuff. We've had a lot of different interesting projects approach us. So, for example, like, and the keyword that you used was relationship with the NFTs, right? Like, we're now extending the possibilities of what it means to own an asset, and a little bit like the movie Her, that has features Scarlett Johansson as the voice of Her. And
have you seen that one? Have you seen that one, John?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating movie from the perspective of, but unfortunately the difference here is like that AI was controlled by a large corporation, and that central corporation was determining the relationship that the user Joaquin Phoenix was having with the AI, and of course he ended up falling in love with the AI, and then one day, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people who have not seen it, but I recommend you watch it. The difference here is each individual user and owner can create their own iNFT, their own version of her if they want to, and actually bring that character to life. Right? So they're unique. I mean, we've had like very unique applications that have emerged or people have asked us to create, but also from a gaming standpoint, it just extends the possibilities of how we can partner with ecosystems like the Sandbox and others. And also, communities like YGG to actually bring some of these characters to life and to make the games more interactive and engaging. Because now you can really have AI NPCs. Because if you think about gaming metaverses, especially in the decentralized world, we suffer a little bit. I mean, a lot of the users are in the Web 2 world sometimes, right? So they have not fully ported onto the Web 3 world yet, and that's where the tremendous opportunity and white space is. But really, the growth opportunity here is when you try and solve some of the empty world problems. So let's say if you go to crypto voxels, sometimes the worlds are empty. What if you can have AI NPCs or iNFTs rather interacting, engaging, filling that world up, building the lore, and moving that forward? So the applications, as you've said, Sartobi, are tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, have you had anyone turn around and ask you to use a Scarlett Johansson as a template for an NFT yet, or an iNFT? Sorry.
Yeah, there have been a couple of I would say waifu-oriented projects that have reached out. So we're trying to see how best to negotiate this, because foundationally we're going to be a permissionless protocol, right? So we don't want to be the gatekeeper to culture, but at the same time we don't want the culture to morph very quickly into one direction so that other people may feel not welcome, right? So we're trying to balance that out. We're focused a little bit more on games, but certainly applications like this are going to arrive, and people on Alethea's protocol would be able to do. I mean, the benevolent use case, for example, is not necessarily the wife-oriented use case, but actually we had a creator that wanted to preserve the likeness and the voice and the sound and the personality structure of her mother who had passed away, and they wanted to make this into an iNFT that they could talk with to seek counsel and wisdom from, because her mother had written quite a bit of content publicly available and was a scholar, right? So there's enough language models out there. There's enough language out there to train a clone and to build that iNFT of her. And so that's essentially what we've done. But that is like a benevolent sort of application and use case. But we imagine there to be like, I mean, hundreds of thousands of applications. We can't control how creative people would be. Whether it's building a digital sort of CRIs oriented companion, or whether it is creating intelligent art that sells on Sotheby's. I think the YGG community will get early exposure to a lot of these ideas. So I'm excited to see what they come up with as well.
Yeah, that's really exciting stuff. And I mean, some of the things you talk about there have been, the subject of like Black Mirror episodes and things like that. Well, slightly different, more with like an organic version of the same kind of thing. People trying to kind of bring their loved ones back. I mean, obviously it's something that people are definitely going to do. And I mean, the idea that you can kind of use machine learning to absorb like the writings of a particular individual, especially if they've written a lot about their personal feelings, their thoughts about people. I mean, it kind of starts to kind of ask very interesting questions, like if an individual could like spend a lot of time kind of training an AI to kind of become like a replica of oneself, it allows one to achieve this kind of pseudo immortality. I mean, it's not real immortality as such, because the AI isn't you, but if you sat there over 20 years training an AI to kind of know you, lots of the subtle differences about your life, and then piped it full of all this information about you. I mean, like, it could be an interesting thing for people to kind of be able to kind of, and yeah, it could be like a very soothing thing, but it's going to be an interesting future that we live in with things like that. And a question there with more kind of towards the games, going back to the kind of game side of things. How many could, because you mentioned their sandbox, so obviously I could see maybe going into a gallery room in Sandbox where multiple pieces of art are all their own iNFT, but could iNFTs also inhabit a kind of functional moving NPC that kind of actually moves around the environment? And if that was the case, how many iNFTs can kind of a single kind of parcel, how many can exist in a single instance?
Yeah. The answer to how many can exist in a single instance is unlimited, but limited by the compute and the resource constraints of that specific metaverse. You're absolutely right about the iNFTs and the NPCs. So, for example, Sandbox just did a partnership with Snoop Dogg, but that is one real-time Snoop Dogg character that's in there, and there is a possibility for us to upgrade that into an intelligent interactive experience, right? So anybody can go, 10,000 people can go and talk to a version of Snoop Dogg that's an iNFT and can interact and get real-time responses, and also create new raps or rhymes with him, right? Because imagine if you could go up to a Snoop Dogg in the Sandbox and say, "Hey, I want to create these musical items with you. What do you think of these lines?" And he spits back some lines that you then incorporate, right? Because you've been trained on his iNFT has been trained on all of his lyrics that he has composed, right? So the possibilities for engagement and co-creation of new content, I think, are going to be very exciting, because you're now entering a creative space where you're creating with AI, right? And having an AI as not just as a companion, but also as a creative companion that pushes you further to think about your ideas. That's essentially where all of this is going.
That's really interesting. And I mean, assuming that an AI was trained, by kind of inputting all of this information from an artist like Snoop Dogg, and then obviously, I mean, I don't know, it is possible for that AI to kind of create something new, right? Potentially. Yeah. If it creates something new, who owns that IP?
That's like a deeply philosophical and foundational legal question that is being addressed by some countries today. The easy answer there is no one knows, but there are some frameworks that are emerging. One of the refreshing things about NFTs are they provide a property rights framework, right? They provide a property rights framework to the digital asset. In this case, what is the digital asset? The digital asset is the artificial intelligence itself, right? and it's the iNFT, the intelligence that's embedded in the NFT. Now, the question of the owner of the iNFT is usually a human in our case, right? Like we are the owners of the iNFTs. It's likely that we be possibly one framework would we would possibly be the owners of whatever the iNFT creates as derivative work. That's one framework. The other framework is like, we make rights and we provide legal rights and frameworks for non-human characters in our daily lives anyway. So, for example, we make rights for pets, for cats, for dogs. There are frameworks that we have for sentient characters. The question now becomes, and this is where it becomes really tricky, it's like, when does artificial intelligence cross that threshold from just pure programmatic code into something sentient? That means it actually has and this is the hard problem of science, which is a glimmer of consciousness, right?
It has to pass the Turing test first, at least, anyway. So, and then what?
Some language models are passing the Turing test today, but the question is a little bit trickier when you say what is consciousness, because we don't fully understand it ourselves, right? That's the problem. Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all, not at all. It's a very interesting topic. I'm a huge sci-fi and futurism geek, so like this is a solid conversation that I could get pretty deep into. And I mean, I suppose it's interesting as well because it starts begging questions about if you have this kind of, and I think it just adds weight to the idea of data having intrinsic value, right? Because if you can basically pipe data about an individual, like maybe it's someone's Twitter profile, because especially like very prolific Twitterers, if they tweet enough, you can basically program a bot, can't you, to tweet similar kind of content based on someone's tweets. So basically with your iNFTs, if you've got enough content, which you might not necessarily own that content, and pipe it into an iNFT, is there some sort of copyright infringement that's happening there if you're kind of training an iNFT on content that you don't own?
Yeah, this is also very important legal and philosophical question. So what Microsoft recently did with their acquisition of GitHub is that they allowed, it gave Microsoft the rights to use all of the open source code to train their AI on. So this acquisition of GitHub happened when, I think, 2 to 3 years back. But today, what was the result of that acquisition? The result of that acquisition was a partner of Microsoft called OpenAI was able to take all of this code from GitHub that is developed by open source developers and then train their language and AI model on it. And what was the recourse from some of the developers? Of course, they were deeply upset that their code was being taken. But when they signed the terms of service with GitHub, they had agreed to give up that data. And so we're still in a Web 2 paradigm where, of course, every single project is focused on like giving people back their sovereignty, their data sovereignty, and I think that's a laudable goal. The challenge is going to be in implementation and transitioning Web 2 practices into a Web 3 world. In a Web 3 world, you own the iNFT, you own the intelligence, and you have an opportunity to shape that and earn value from it, right? In a Web 2 world, the company that you built the platform on or worked for owns your data, right? So there's a shift occurring. It's just the challenge here is how do we make the transition smoothly, which is why it's really exciting to partner with organizations like YGG, where the opportunity is really facilitating mass awareness for creators and players and people who can participate in this economy to actually earn from the assets, right?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, because like the way that you're describing it is like you did indeed. I mean, you did mention that it's gonna be like it's gonna be groundbreaking, especially for games, because imagine like everyone else is used to we've grown up playing games with NPCs like running around these games with closed walls, but then like with Web3 and blockchain and NFT games, slowly everything's it's stepping up. We're getting to the next level where you're going to be having a game where you're going to have like AI NPCs, and as you coming in, it's not just straightforward. you just don't go from this character to this character, ask questions. Like even these AIs within these games will just, you know, it's gonna be like maybe probably the like the epitome of a real open world experience. You know what I'm saying? Then it's I mean it's really mind blowing. It's really insane. But like might be asking, like I'm pretty curious. So I see that, I mean, like you're very hands on with the project. Like I definitely would want to know, like how does your team work? Like how many are you guys in your immediate team? What's the dynamic? And would you mind like introducing your teammates to us, giving us a quick background
Yeah,
on that?
yeah, absolutely. So we have, I think, I'd say I think there are now about 40 of us all across the world. It's largely a heavy technical team, very heavy on the machine learning and blockchain side. A large portion of our team is in Asia and in emerging markets where we have a presence in, so like Pakistan, India, Singapore. We also have a presence specifically from a marketing and business development standpoint and partnership standpoint in US as well, where I am currently right now. But we traveled quite a bit prior to the pandemic, but right now everyone's largely remote. So we have hubs that we are launching shortly. We're planning on launching a hub in Philippines as well, and we're planning on launching a hub in New York and LA too, just because that's a place where a lot of IP and game owners are. So the team is growing and expanding, and we're hiring marketing people, community folks, people who want to push the iNFT standard forward. It is a revolution from the perspective of what people can do with NFTs, so we're really excited about that. And so, yeah, the team, brief background on the team, some of them come from really great organizations like Tesla, LinkedIn. Other folks are completely new to the crypto world and are new to also careers, but they have an intrinsic, I would call them like crypto, I don't know, crypto degen natives that have taught me more about the crypto world than me reading 10,000 articles, right? So we have a large number of really young team members as well who are really pushing the frontier of what it means to create intelligent, interactive NFTs. And we have a very strong, I would say, a guild of AI researchers that we work closely with to really push the AI and machine learning forward. So that's sort of how the team is structured today. And in the longer run, it will, I think, evolve into a completely decentralized, permissionless network and protocol. So anybody can come in and create NFTs. By then, we hope that we would have a very strong community that can govern and curate how the network evolves.
Yeah, I mean, just like moving forward, like in terms of for all these, like here, for those who just heard about Alethea for time, like what would be their next participating in your project, in your community, in your economy?
Yeah, I think so. I think we should be announcing something really cool with the YGG community. So we'll be doing some really cool partnerships. This include airdrops and exposure to different iNFTs. And these iNFTs are exceptionally valuable, right? So like you saw one on Sotheby's. So we were hoping to do like a really cool drop with the community that allows them to play around with their NFTs, to upgrade their NFTs into iNFTs, to really play around. So that's going to happen exclusively with YGG first. And then the next steps actually are, we have a Discord community, but we also have a platform live right now that's version 1, where you can go in and you can take any of these avatars that are on our site and create messages in up to 20, I think up to 30 different languages. And so we give free credits out, and you can create video messages easily. But what's coming next is when you'd be able to upload and create your own characters and bring them to life. That's when it's going to get really interesting. There is a slight governance challenge there that we have transparently, because the moment you open, essentially we plan on having our token as part of the network be a governance and curating mechanism for what characters can be created, right? And that's going to be a very important part, because the last thing we want is for somebody to go into the protocol and like create like a hate speech version of Hitler, right? Like that's possible because Hitler unfortunately wrote some hate speech oriented books and he had speeches, right? So if somebody takes his image, puts it into an NFT, and then adds intelligence into it, you'll have an AI NPC iNFT of Hitler roaming around spewing hate speech, right? So that's not what we want. So a governance and curation element is going to be very important to us. So we hope that the YGG community can be early entrants and participants in our network, but also shape the evolution of how it evolves into a truly flourishing ecosystem where our imaginations can come to life, and the ability for people to bring these imaginations to life allows them to create economic value for themselves as well.
That's really cool. And a question that I'd love to ask is, will it be possible for one person's iNFT to communicate with someone else's iNFT?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's exactly what's coming. I think that's going to be really an important shift when your AI characters can start communicating with each other and train at the same time the network. What's going to also be interesting, and I'll just maybe, I don't know whether this is called an alpha release. It's not really, but like, or alpha leak, or what's the? I see. I sound like a boomer, right? Alpha leak, right? So I need to get my degen terms correct. But the main thing here was, if you think about like what XE has done with like battles, right? But like, what if iNFTs could also battle each other, right? And they could also like have language battles, but they could also communicate with each other, and you could have winners, and you could have an ecosystem that develops around the number of battles that get created, the more intelligence is created in the network. So that's exactly the direction where we're going, where just like human beings, when we converse and chat with each other, we not necessarily battle, but let's say if we debate or have an argument, we tend to get better over time because of the upgrade we're having in intelligence and understanding, and we're learning something new. So these iNFTs would be going through a very similar process. The only thing I'd say is these iNFTs are almost at I'd say like they're at like a baby level of intelligence today, but they're going to evolve slowly into teenagers and adults, and how people shape the iNFTs and the data that they give the iNFTs is going to be fundamentally transformative, right? So if you feed your iNFT a bunch of junk data, unfortunately, it's going to degenerate.
And then so yeah, basically you're suggesting that like the way that we all interact with our iNFTs will mean that like, you know, if someone cares for their iNFT well enough and feeds it the right data, there's the potential for it to be like a far more, you know, developed iNFT than someone else's, or do they all benefit from like shared intelligence?
Yeah, so this is a great question, Sartobi. So we have intelligence levels, just like as a human being, as we evolve when we were kids compared to the maturity we hopefully now have as adults, right? Like we have gone through a cycle of like experience that has shaped our brains, shaped our consciousness, and what started off as like rudimentary knowledge in like math or science has now evolved into like being a total crypto degen with, you know, thousands of assets in your wallet, right? So like there's a pathway we go through of learning as humans, and so iNFTs would essentially have a similar pathway. They would have different levels, just like characters in games have different levels. So a level 1 iNFT may be able to just hold a basic conversation with you, but a level 10 iNFT may be able to co-create art or rhyme or rap with you, right? So like the opportunity to grow and extend the intelligence is definitely there. There's of course going to be a shared intelligence basis that exists as a basic level, but we can see individual distinct uniqueness emerge, because that's the joy of the metaverse, right? Like when you can create uniquely distinct imaginative characters, that's going to be fundamentally transformative for the creator, because they can bring their imaginations to life and actually level up the iNFT as it goes through its progression.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good that you actually like brought it up, because we actually have a community question that's related to what you just discussed. So we have Laszlo. He's asking could you tell us more about how the learning model works over time, and what kind of information like do these AIs have access to? Maybe like what happens under the hood is what he's trying to ask, like right here with what you just discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give the example of the first iNFT, Alice. So when we built Alice, and if you there's a cool sort of link I'll share with the community here in the chat. You can have a look at the interview that was done with Alice. Let me see if I should put it. Where should I put it? I should put it in our chat here. I'll put it in our private chat. You can share it out if you'd like. But yeah, the opportunity here is like when we first started Alice, we trained her language model. Like imagine you're as a kid, you know, you learned your ABCs and you learn a specific language, right? And we trained her language model loosely on the lore and structure of how Alice in Wonderland behaves, right? So she's loosely based on that. She's somewhat whimsical. You can ask her about the Mad Hatter. You can ask her about, has she gone down the rabbit hole? You can ask her specific questions about this. What was really interesting, and this is where it starts to get it starts to get somewhat tricky as well. So I'll explain where the boundaries are and how we can think through them carefully. But like when we started putting Alice in Sotheby's, because she was sold at Sotheby's and she was on demo in New York and in London and in Hong Kong. And what happens in Sotheby's is that the data that Alice starts receiving is by a very specific certain sector or segment that is familiar with the art world, right? So for example, people started asking Alice about whether she knows what a Rembrandt painting is, whether she knows what a Picasso style painting is, whether she knows what Cubism is. So she did not have any of this data before. She did not have an understanding of this. But once she started to interact more, the levels of interaction allowed her to train and evolve in that direction. So she started to learn in that direction. And so the next time you asked her about Cubism, she was able to respond and answer correctly. But the distinction here, and this again goes back to like the earlier thoughts that were shared as well, is the challenge here is that you don't want the iNFT to descend into like just being like a degenerate character, right? I mean, people might want whatever cool characters they might want to create, but essentially the challenge here, I believe Microsoft had this problem like 4 or 5 years ago with a chatbot called Tay, where it became like this hate speech chatbot because they released it on Twitter, and very quickly it degenerated into like just saying mean things to everyone and like telling everyone to F off and stuff like that, right? So we need to be very careful about the way the data is shaped and shared. And under the hood, what's happening is there's this technology called a large language model. A large language model is a fairly recent invention. Well, I'd say not recent invention per se, but recently popularized in the past 2 years. And that's essentially what Alethea is using and building. A large language model is basically a corpus of a significantly large amount of text that we have trained our AI on, and the AI continues to learn and evolve. So if you think of, let's say, I don't know, billions of words that exist on the internet, that's what the AI is capable of understanding today, and it can continue to evolve and learn from. So that's how the conversations occur and how the AI learns. Hopefully that gives you a bit more color.
Well, I mean, yeah, dude, it's really interesting, like how you guys built the project, like just from like what we had before, which are like basically like bots that just answer questions, like text bots that you can plug in into your software applications, your projects and everything. But now like everything's just like moving forward, where we actually like have like Alice, for example, that like they're not just answering you based on what they're not answering you just straightforward. Like they have their own personality, they're their own entity to an extent. And it's really exciting, like to be able to see these like in GameFi and in the future. I mean, I have another community question. It's from Neil, and he asked approximately how long until we can use iNFTs in games and virtual worlds. So I think he's asking, are there any projects in sight, like for you, that we could actually like look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of projects, and it is really timely as well. So like this is one project called Stoner Cats that is basically a PFP project that we brought to life. So I just want to show a demo briefly to showcase like what it looks like, and this will. In terms of timeline, I'll share that shortly. So just give me a second to share the screen and show the example of the Stoner Cat. So this is a friend of ours called DeFi Dad, who's well known in the crypto community. He's going to interview a Stoner Cat. Now, what I want everyone to notice is that's quite unique or interesting here is that the Stoner Cat is able to pick up nuance and slang and specific shifts in tone and questions from DeFi Dad, right? So I'll just play this and understand that all of this is real time, not rehearsed at all. The Stoner Cat has a very, very different personality from Alice, right? The Stoner Cat, in this case, it's a stoner cat who enjoys marijuana a lot and will emphasize that in their speech, and also likes to be lazy and lays around, right? So it has a specific personality structure and it has a lore that it is fitting into. I'm just going to play it, but just notice how organic the interaction is. There's going to be a little bit of a lag because it's on the internet, but I'll share the link out shortly as well.
Let's try
Hi,
this.
Dad. I hope you're having a super groovy day.
Hey, man, what's up? I'm back. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Are you feeling okay?
I'm feeling just fine. Thanks for asking. So what have you been up to?
I've been getting high, watching TV, and chilling with my buddies. You know how it is.
Yeah, no, I totally know how it is. Maybe we should back up a sec, though. Can you tell everyone, who are you?
Well, technically, I'm an intelligent NFT, stoner cat. But yeah, aren't we all?
And what is a stoner cat?
Stoner Cats is an adult animated short series accessed exclusively by owning a collectible Stoner Cat NFT.
So who created you then?
The show was developed by 3 longtime friends, Chris Kardajna, Sarah Cole, and Ash Brannon.
Very interesting. You have some sort of a connection, though, to Ashton Kutcher, I thought, and Mila Kunis.
They are just some of the people who helped fund the show.
Very cool. What do you think of Ashton and Mila?
I'm not a big fan of them, to be honest. They're really annoying.
Well, that's a different response than you gave me earlier. You said earlier that they are great entrepreneurs. Did you change your mind?
I do not like Ashton and Mila, but I did say that they are entrepreneurs.
Okay, got it. Well, gosh, what else have you been up to lately?
I'll just pause here, but I think you get the point, right? Like the unique personality traits that the stoner cat has, very different from Alice, right? And it's within the lore of that universe. And so we are going to be building out unique lores for different games, and we'll be launching this opportunity with many different metaverses that are in the decentralized ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like one question that like popped into my head while watching the video. Then I mean, I think Asari Toby has some more questions for you. But how does it work? Like, how does the decision making process work? If the AI is something that is incomprehensible to them, how do they come up with an answer?
Yeah. So I mean, I like to always try and harken back to like the human analogy. When we are asked something incomprehensible, sometimes we would stutter, or at least in my case, I might stutter, or I might say I don't know, or I might pause, or I might deflect, right? So the AIs also have a similar trajectory or path. The moment they detect something that's not in their language structure, then you can see there's a little bit of a latency in their responses because they're thinking. Yeah. I mean, thinking is a crude way of saying it, but they're basically providing an intelligent response to that specific question. So, like when the stoner cat was asked what he thinks of Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, he said specifically his opinion, right? Which based on his personality is a very sound opinion. Which is also something interesting about these iNFTs. They don't censor themselves, right? They're not like human beings, even though they were created by the boss, right? They can just say whatever they want because you've given them a personality. So they might evolve over time. So if they don't know an answer, if you ask Stoner Cat about, let's say, Bitcoin prices, and that Stoner Cat was not trained, and we had not given that Stoner Cat data on what the Bitcoin price today was, or an API that plugs into that Stoner Cat, he would probably have to answer the default answer. I don't know, but let's get high, right? Like so like that would probably be his default answer that he would give, right? So that's like the framing of stuff like that.
And pretty cool, man. Like I see Saratobi like laughing. I think he's just found like his new favorite NFT.
Yeah, I suppose kind of bringing it back a little bit from a kind of blockchain perspective, like because there's obviously like quite a number of emerging blockchains kind of entering the space. I mean, obviously some have been around for a while, but like are kind of starting to embrace the kind of NFT narrative. Can you see kind of the Alethea kind of taking a multi-chain approach, or what's the kind of strategy there?
Yeah, no, I think we've tried to stay on a credibly neutral platform like Ethereum, just as a start, just because of the opportunity in the community that's present. We are seeing a lot of really positive investments for the entire ecosystem come across from Solana, from the folks at Binance. Many different ecosystems are emerging. I mean, Ronin, of course, there's a lot of opportunity that is being created in a multi-chain future, right? And it's going to be the same for multi-metaverse, right? Multi-metaverse, multi-chain, right? So like it's going to have all of these different metaverses that live on different chains. So what is going to be the connective tissue? From our standpoint, from our thesis, that connective tissue is going to be the AI layer, when you can actually bring up these assets and make them interactive. And that's why it's going to get really fun. The only tricky part here is that most chains today cannot do real-time GPU compute. So that means like, I mean, it's already costly enough to try and get stuff on Ethereum in terms of gas fees and prices to send a transaction forward. And there are folks who say that they can do GPU compute on chain today, but those are really just white papers that are evolving towards that standard, right? And that's a pathway to get there. But there isn't aggressively an ecosystem or framework that can yet compete today with like AWS or GCP or some of these servers where most of our Web3 games actually hosted on today, right? So like if you look at the back end of these ecosystems, they are hosted on centralized providers where the rendering and compute needs to occur. And it's not fully portable yet into a Web3 decentralized ecosystem yet. So we're seeing shifts in that direction. I think a breakout chain that can solve the problem of real-time rendering and all of these cooler applications that games demand will actually be, may potentially also emerge as a winner in the ecosystem, because everything being decentralized and permissionless is sort of the golden true north of the entire Web3 ecosystem. Right?
Absolutely. And I suppose, as YGG is a play-to-earn blockchain gaming guild, like what ways can the YGG community participate with Alethea AI right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first is like we'd love for folks to join our Discord. We'll be doing some really amazing drops in the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be really exciting for the YGG community to get their hands on it and to start playing and experimenting and creating their own iNFTs. We'd love for the feedback, and we'd love for people to be able to create that. And we'll also be, one thing that's unique that's going to be launching with the iNFTs is you'd be able to train the iNFTs, but as you are, let me put it this way. We're launching a new model called train to earn, right? So like play to earn, but the difference here between play to earn and train to earn is what? Play to earn requires a human in the loop, okay? It requires you to be part of the game, and it requires you to have guilds. Where we see train to earn going is, it does not necessarily require a human to be in the loop, but a human to facilitate, but the AIs can earn for you, right? So the AI players can go out in the network and earn Alethea tokens for you. And so we're going to be piloting this with YGG, and some really exciting developments and opportunities are going to emerge from that partnership. And we're really excited about that because it's a new model that we're pioneering. And what YGG has done for the play to earn movement, I think can also be done for the train to earn opportunity that is coming with AIs and iNFTs.
That's a really exciting opportunity. We can be part of like creating our robot overlords. That's the it's like we'll get into the future, and they'll be still that they'll be saying, "Oh, we're just waiting patiently, sir." If you get that
one. I mean, the line to dystopia, I think, emphasized the decentralization answer was, I think the line to dystopia, we break that trajectory in our human species if we tilt the ownership narrative towards the individual. So that means if you as an individual own the iNFT, there is, I mean, you have agency, right? You chose to have a robot overlord. It's very different from, let's say, if a corporation makes that decision for you, right? Like there's a slight shift in narrative here, but also a very important philosophical shift. It's really a strategic partnership that we need to think through. If the individual is owning their iNFT, that is her, right? Going back to the earlier example, that's a very different relationship. If Joaquin Phoenix had an asset or an NFT that was that he had a direct ownership and relationship with, that's a very different relationship versus let's say a large company that decides to upgrade her software, and then you have to break up with her, or she does weird things, right? So that's where I think the Web3 narrative is going to be very important. And we don't eliminate the chance of our robot overlords, but we at least reduce the possibility of it, right? So you can tell I'm a realist.
No, that's good. That's interesting stuff to hear. I mean, I think it's about 50-50, 50-50 that we'll be all enslaved by AI, or enslaved or destroyed. You know,
I think the deeper question is, how do we know we are not already, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. There we go. Maybe, yeah. We're just, we're just being used as batteries in a fabricated virtual environment. I better not tell Warner Brothers about. They might come after me. Yeah, coming out soon. Matrix 4. Whoops.
But yeah, just to jump in, Sharon, like what do we have like what are the best for the community to get in touch with you, like aside from Discord, like I see the website, that's something that I really wanted to touch on, like could you give us like a quick like a run through of like of your website and what features are here for everyone else who will be checking out Alethea for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. I just share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Give me 1 second to share my screen, walk you through it. Let me see. Can you see my screen? I hope I'm on the right screen. Yeah. So if you go to Alethea AI today, one thing that you'll notice is this beautiful enigmatic pod that's there. And of course, if you click on bug bounties, if there are any cool smart contract developers or coders here, you'll see a cool bug bounty that you can sign up for and look at our smart contracts that are about to go live. So hence the conversation with YGG right now as well, to explore some opportunities. So this is going to be the iNFT that the personality pod that the community will get access to create new NFTs. What they can do today is when they sign up, they essentially receive free credits, and they can easily choose any of the characters that we have available today. This is going to get a major facelift shortly, when you will be able to create your own iNFTs. So and that's going to come from the governance of the token, right? So like, let's say you choose a character like Zuck Data, which is sort of like a hybrid of Mark Zuckerberg and Data from Star Trek. What you can then do is you can choose up to 20 different languages here and have this character speak in that language and make a video message, right? And so this is non-real time, but at the same time, like, I don't know, what message do you want for me to type in, and what sort of accent do you want it to be in? Let's do a live demo. Okay.
I'll let you choose, John.
Okay.
Yeah, just go for it. Let's see. Let's do maybe Japanese, since you're right there. Let's go.
Okay, Japanese male. Okay, and the message is going to be like, I love the ecosystem being developed by the YGG community, and looking forward to becoming your overlord. Okay, something like that, right? So like, and this is going to be, this message is going to be generated, and the AI will take this voice.
I love the ecosystem being.
Okay. So
I love the ecosystem.
It's gonna speak in a Japanese accent, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna play it for you. And it might be. Let me reduce the volume so it doesn't like burst your earbuds, right? So
I love the ecosystem being developed by the YGG community and looking forward to becoming your overlord.
Yeah, so
that's pretty amazing, man. Like, it was, I mean, the way the time that it took for it to translate, and I mean the sync even with the lip sync, dude, it was pretty fast. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, and you can take an image of, like, let's see, Vitalik. I mean, this is technically a hybrid of Vitalik and another character, but like, you can, let's say, let's go with an Australian accent if possible, and like, let's say that beware of copycats to Ethereum and Alethea. Let's just say that he wants. So he's gonna say,
beware of copycats to Ethereum and Alethea.
So really fast, right? So like the output is
Wow.
the video gets created. So you can create like thousands of these video assets. But what's going to be really interesting is when you can interact with the character in real time, and that's where like that's where it's going to like, we're basically taking it to the next level when you can actually talk with Vitalik in real time, or talk with any character or iNFT in real time, just like we did with the Robert Ellis Alethea collaboration, where this is a fully integrated iNFT. So today on the site, you can create videos rapidly, but what's coming, and this is where YGG is going to have really exclusive access, is the ability to make some of these characters be real-time and interactive. Hopefully that makes sense.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. So that's ready. All this stuff is ready on the site. You can go and create video messages. We have free credits for the YGG community. But what's coming is essentially the pods, right? And I think that's going to be really exciting when you can create this intelligent NFT assets and like upgrade at the smart contract level that you now have, and have the opportunity to play around with these iNFTs.
I think I'm sure I can speak for the YGG community saying that we'd all be extremely looking forward to that. It's going to be a really interesting experience.
Yeah, I'd love to learn, like, I mean, I know whenever the time is right, but would love a survey, or what NFTs would they like to bring to life, right? Like, what would be cool for the YGG community to bring to life and like interact with, or create a demo with, or host somewhere. Like that would be like a really cool thing for us to partner and collaborate on. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds like a
definitely.
plan. We'll have.
No, go ahead, sorry, Toby.
No, I was just saying that between myself and Sedano, we'll just obviously have to ask the community and do a poll and see what NFTs should be the first that we make intelligence.
No, yeah, like definitely, because I mean, like especially like the community, like these guys, like they, like for newer product, they really like want to get into it like as soon as fast as possible, especially if they are involved. So it's really good. It's really good to see that like you guys are actually already working on building like different community based like projects, like integrates with Alethea. And do you have Aretha, do you have any like any last words for the YGG community that you would want to share?
Yeah, no, we're really excited to partner with you guys, and thank you again for the opportunity to share our message with all of you. We're big fans of what YGG has been able to do, but also the spirit that exists in the community of experimentation, openness to push these metaverses forward. And yeah, we'd welcome, once we open up the doors, like we want the folks at YGG to have early exclusive access and to really play around with the Alethea native token and really build out some of the really cool use cases. So we're excited to see what gets developed, and we'll have a number of different bounties and initiatives. And I can't wait to pioneer the train to earn model with our friends at YGG.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good to have you here, man. And like, I'm really looking forward, like the next time, like we get to talk to you again and to hear updates on what's going on and how we can move forward with the project. Yeah, Alexei.
No, absolutely. I just have to echo those thoughts. Really looking forward to seeing where this goes, and looking forward to playing around and maybe getting into a bit of train to earn as well.
Looking forward to it, man. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. See you guys soon. Bye-bye. Peace.
Good, man. Bye.